In this video, we will provide a functional overview of the new feature Student Aid Eligibility in the integration between PeopleSoft Campus Solutions and Oracle Cloud Student Financial Planning. This integration will allow CS customers to load ISIRs in CS, but allow SFP's automation to do the validating and verifying of ISIR data instead of CS's manual verification. By using SFP's automation, our CS customers will see a substantial increase in the number of ISIRs verified and in a more timely, efficient manner. This new offering has a minimal implementation timeframe and provides a simple step to the cloud. The topics we will review in this spotlight. First, we will review the current limitations of the CS Financial Aid ISIR functionality. Next, a high-level review of SFP's Student Aid Eligibility application. Then we will review the CS Financial Aid Business Continuity, CS SFP Core Data Exchanges for ISIR processing, and Student Aid Eligibility Implementation Considerations. Then followed by an end-to-end demo of the SFP Student Aid Eligibility, where a student's ISIR is loaded in parallel in both CS and SFP. SFP Student Aid Eligibility application will trigger messages to be consumed by CS, and then the student moving through CS budgets and packaging. The final slide will provide a list of resources. CS Financial Aid processing of ISIR's verification is not automated, and many of the steps are manual. Extensive use of checklists assists administrators on the docs requested, and many docs require manual review once they are received. The CS SAG mailbox management is done outside of CS, and institutions must deposit the inbound data file to a file server that can be accessed by the SFA import and load process. Through batch processing, ISIRs are imported and loaded into CS staging tables, where CTM and search match will determine if any biodemo updates are required. Custom processes are required for ISIR reviews and requesting documents. Custom processes are required for the review of returned documents and ISIR updates. After an ISIR and requested documents have been cleared or verified, updates to the student aid attribute record are made, which will allow the student to go through CS packaging. The solution to Campus Solutions manual ISIR processing is to integrate with SFP's Student Aid Eligibility application. SAY is basically a subset of the CS SFP integration that has been available to CS customers for over 3 years. No additional SFP messages are needed for the SAE integration. The next 3 slides provide an overview of SFP's Student Aid Eligibility application. SFP's import of the ISIR is automated and will include the review of C codes and request documents from the student. The second step in SFP's Student Aid Eligibility is where SFP processes all verification types, notifies students of issues, and requests additional information. SFP's automation speeds up the FA communication to users by almost 43%. SFP's portal allows the student to submit documents and process them in real time. The third step is SFP's document management. SFP's Student Aid Eligibility is automated to request, upload, and review various application documents. In Step 4, SFP is providing access to data that is critical for institutions. As you will see in the upcoming demo, the CS SFP Student Aid Eligibility Integration will improve CS's ISIR processing through SFP's automation and document management. The parallel loading of the ISIR in CS and SFP allows for CS Financial Aid business continuity in the following ways. By allowing ISIR-dependent processing in CS Financial Aid, such as financial aid budgets, while concurrently taking advantage of Student Financial Planning's Student Aid Eligibility automation. By retaining CS Financial Aid ISIR load functionality, you can continue to create CS biodemo and admissions prospect data from unsolicited ISIRs. Also, CS customers can continue their use of PeopleSoft query and equations for maintenance of ISIR data in CS ISIR staging tables and CS application tables. The CS SFP Student Aid Eligibility Integration will support the 6 messages shown on the slide. These are the same messages that are also supported in the full CS SFP integration. The messages are student initiation, student update, student notification event, document requests, the ISIR matched notification event, and the valid ISIR process status event. This slide is showing some of the CS SFP Student Aid Eligibility implementation considerations. To enable the student aid eligibility integration between CS and SFP, the Enable SFP ISIR verification flag will need to be selected. The flag is mutually exclusive, and the other fields on the page are grayed out except for the message sequence. The Enable SFP ISIR verification flag is read during the time CS is consuming SFP's messages. No other setup pages are dependent on this flag. We will begin the CS demo with an ISIR file that has already been imported and loaded into CS. SearchMatch has determined Chris is a new student, and a biodemo record is created for Chris's ample ID SAE 0025. Once the ISIR is loaded, the student aid attribute record is updated and is used as input into packaging. In the CS SFP integration, CS is the system of record for the student's biodemo data, and SFP will create the student when consuming the student initiation message. The CS ample ID is mapped to SFP's external student ID. To process SFP messages, navigate to Campus Community Student Financial Planning Interface, Process SFP Messages. Using POP selection tool of either query or file, identify the population of students that need to be pushed to SFP. In this example, I have used the Adam Apple Prog record, where the term is fall 2023 and using a specific action date. In SFP, to manually load the same ISIR file, navigate to Administration, Load ISIRs, and select the file to load. Next, SFP will match the ISIR to a student. At the time the ISIR is matched, SFP automatically begins processing that ISIR per configuration and triggers ISIR messages for CS to consume. For CS to consume the ISIR messages, the SF process messages run control will allow the user to run either the pull or pull2 to consume SFP messages. To view the messages in CS, navigate to the SFP message log and select the message class of notification. SFP will have sent 3 messages: ISIR matched notification, document request, and the valid ISIR process status information. This is the message that CS SA handlers will use to determine the updates to several CS-FA records, including the student aid attribute record. Each time CS consumes this message, CS-FA records are updated, and once this message has a status of valid, it will indicate the student is ready for packaging. Now I'll turn the demo over to Nairi to review SFP's ISIR automation and document management.
We're going to start this demonstration in student aid eligibility in the context of our student, Chris Sanchez. So let's first look at the student's ISIR. We can see that the student has completed the 23-24 FAFSA, and the status of that ISIR file in the system is pending. Let's make note of a couple of ISIR data points. First, the student is a dependent student, noted by their dependency status. Then we'll look at the parents' information. So the parents are married. We see information provided for both parent 1 and parent 2. There are 3 number of family members and 1 in college. Then we have some of the tax information. They've submitted their 1040. They married, filed jointly for that return. And then we have some of the tax information that we can copy for submitting documents later on in the demonstration. So I'll copy in the AGI, and then I'll copy in the taxes paid. Okay, let's look at the ISIR codes tab. We can see that the student was selected for verification Because they are a dependent student, they have comment code 170. The status of that code in the system is processing, and they are in the standard verification group, or V1. Now, based on the student's verification selection, let's see what documents have been requested. We're now on the requested document screen in SAE. We can see a set of 2 documents. So the first is the dependent verification worksheet requested for the same award year as the ISIR 23-24. And then at least one of the following documents will be required for the parents to submit to verify some of their tax information based on the scenario submitted in their FAFSA. Now that we have completed looking at the administrative UI, let's complete the document submission in the portal. So I am now in the portal on the home page in the context of our same student, Chris Sanchez. We can see from the student view that the notification to complete the 23-24 FAFSA is completed and that there are some requested documents. So if we click that notification, we're taken to the document screen and we can see a similar list of what we saw in the admin view. And the first document that we're going to submit is the dependent verification worksheet. So we're now on the Upload Document Smart Form page for the dependent verification worksheet. The first section that we see is a household information. We can see a message here that based on the scenario submitted from the student's FAFSA, namely the number of family members and their parents' marital status and the number in college, that based on regulations, there's no further validation necessary for this information. However, if the student's scenario has now changed, this information can be modified. Since there are no changes needed, I'll unselect this so that we can close that section and there will be no information submitted to the administrative UI so as to prevent any further conflicting information. Now I just need to complete the radio buttons. The student completed their IRS submission via the data retrieval tool, and the parents elected not to use it or perhaps were unable, and so you see some messaging here to let them know that they may have to submit some tax documents, which we have seen have been requested. So as there is no other information to complete, we can select to agree to the consent, and then we'll start the submission of the document for the student. As the document is being processed, we can see now that there's a message to the student to let them know that because they are a dependent student, there's some additional verification needed for the parent. So I'll say okay. This document is now updated to a status of pending signature, awaiting that parent's validation. If we go to the profile page, the student has already enabled the parent's access. So they've completed the FERPA consent, which is configurable by institution if they elect for the financial aid system to have this consent form shown to the student. Secondly, they've enabled the parent access to their student record. And so we'll just copy this username and we'll log out. And we'll log back in using the credentials set up for the student's mother. So once logged in as the parent, we can see a similar view that the student was able to see, and we'll click on that required document notification. Again, we see that the document is pending signature for the parent, so we'll complete that submission process. We can see a message that the document is now in read-only view based on security rules from the system that only the initial submitter can make any changes. So as the parent, I'm just going to review this information, confirm that it's correct, and then complete the required signature fields. So first the student ID, the parent's last name, and this information is being validated against the student's FAFSA so that only the FAFSA parents will be able to submit this document. And once that information has been complete, we can sign, finish, and send this document along to the financial aid system. Now that that document has been processed, we can see it available in the document history and shown that it is acceptable and no additional information is being requested. So now as I'm logged in as the parent, we can see that there were some other documents that were needed. And since we saw in the student's ISIR that the parents had completed their joint 1040, then that's the document that we will upload today. So I'll go through and just complete the requested information using some of the notes that we captured from the ISIR earlier. And complete all of these fields, making sure that they match what has been submitted for the student's FAFSA and what has been submitted on the parent's 1040. I'll choose the local copy of the 1040 form to upload, and then I will complete the submission to send that document along to the financial aid system. Now that both of those documents have been submitted from the student portal, we can see them both available in the document history, showing a status of acceptable. So now let's wrap up the demonstration back into the administrative UI. If I refresh this screen, we can see that there are no longer any pending document requests shown for the student. And then looking at the Receive Documents screen, both of the documents submitted in the student portal are now available and also noted in a status of acceptable. So if we go back to the student's ISIR, we can now see that for that same 23-24 ISIR, the status of the ISIR is now in a valid state. And if we go to the ISIR codes tab, that comment code 170 has been automatically cleared. And this was automatically cleared using the rules that are defined in the SAE system, as well as going through the validation process to identify that the document metadata submitted from these documents validates correctly with the ISIR information, that there is no conflicting information, no necessary ISIR corrections, and thus the comment code can be automatically cleared. And now that the status of the ISIR is valid, the student's record is now available for packaging in the financial aid system.
Now that the student and parent have provided the requested documentation in SFP's portal, the ISIR automation has triggered the valid ISIR message for CS to consume. Using the CS process, SFP message run control, CS can pull messages from SFP. The SCC SFP pull process is pulling individual messages, where the SCC_SFP pull to process is using MIME to pull a group of messages, and this will improve processing time. Using the SFP message log page, you can view all incoming and outgoing messages. Here we can view the valid ISIR message with the ISIR status of valid. The ISIR handler logic will update the tables, and PS Student Aid Attribute Record will allow for further CS packaging, awarding, dispersing functionality. For every aid year in CS Financial Aid, a student will need a valid Student Aid Attribute Record and a financial aid term built prior to creating a budget and also to process packaging and awarding. We've seen how SFP's valid ISIR message has updated the Student Aid Attribute Record, and now we will create the financial aid term record. This demo is showing the manual steps, but CS does provide batch processes. As you can see, the FA term record is now providing the academic career, program, plan, and aid year for this student that is similar to SFP's SAFE data. Within the FA term component, the budget required field is showing the student needs a budget assignment. And we can do that next. To create a budget, there are two options. First one, process using formulas, and the second is process using equations. For this demo and student, I used the undergrad formula, which you can see on this slide, and the various budget items and amounts that were calculated. For this demo, I did not package or assign awards through a batch process, but did a manual assignment of awards. On the first tab is the Student Aid Package page that will allow the user to manually assign awards to the student. The second tab, the Needs Summary, is providing an overview of the budgets assigned to the student. And the third tab is the Term Summary, which is an overview of the FA term that we previously built. Going back to the Student Aid Package tab, first select the Packaging Plan ID of Federal Pell and tap Retrieve. This will go through a validation routine. And then the awards associated to that packaging plan are displayed in the awards grid. After tapping Post, the awards are now assigned to the student. Depending on the setup, the student may need to go into CS self-service to accept the awards prior to being dispersed. This concludes the TOI for the CS SFP Student Aid Eligibility Integration. To summarize, the ISIRs are loaded in parallel. SFP's automation will go through the validation, verification, and request the required documents. Once SFP has completed the validation, CS will consume the valid ISIR message, which will update the student aid attribute record. This will allow CS to continue processing the budgets, packaging, and disbursements.